Okay, so we're going to begin moral lessons, valuable lessons from the Parashah. We're holding Parashat Toldot. I think it would be a good idea to give a brief introduction in order to understand what's going on. After all, we're dealing with a set of twins, but they're very, very different. And a lot of people don't really understand clearly what is the difference between Esav and Yaakov. It's not just about personality here. It's something a lot deeper. So in order to properly understand this subject, let's go back in time to Parashat Bereshit, where we are introduced to Chet Adam Rishon. We see something called the primordial sin. As a result of Adam and Chava disobeying clear instructions from Hashem, they caused a tremendous mix-up, let's call it, an irbuvia, mix-up. This irbuvia is seen in two areas. In the area of a mixture between good and bad. There are two opposite forces that exist in creation from the very, very beginning, and they've become mixed up. The idea of them being mixed up as a result of the sin symbolizes that this is the challenge that mankind will have for all time, is using hopefully his free will to differentiate between good and bad, because they will be mixed up. He will not have complete clarity between right and wrong, unless of course he has some sort of direction. So man, through his actions, in a sense, causes this irbuvia all the time. In the same way that there's this irbuvia mixture amongst the kochot, amongst these powers of good and bad, there's also an irbuvia in the neshamot. Hashem creates souls of various kinds. Some of them are more pure than others, meaning that they lean towards doing the right thing, and others are the opposite, leaning towards doing the wrong thing. All of this was created with the intent of enabling free will. So you have from the very beginning a very interesting concept, that even though the free will exists, but you do have neshamot, you do have souls that have a predisposition to go against that which is good. Two opposing forces, two camps. Nonetheless, even though this is the system that God created, man is entrusted with this job to be able to filter out the bad from the good. You caused, or you can at all times cause this mix-up. You also have the ability to bring about seder, to bring about order, or to filter out the bad from the good, make this clear distinction between the two. And that is why we see that Hashem, God tells Adam, listen, from now on, as a result of you disobeying my instruction, you're going to eat bread, but with the sweat of your brow. It means you're going to have to work hard. In that message, however, there's a very important lesson. And the lesson is, in the same way that bread is achieved by hard work, which involves winnowing, threshing, grinding. Ultimately, what are we doing when we want to have that bread? We are removing the psolet, we're removing the impurities in order to be able to get this bread, which will be hopefully something that we will want to eat, something that will be healthy. And in order to achieve that, we have to go through all those processes. So that in itself is a message. It contains a message for mankind that this is what you need to do, not just with bread, but in general, this is part of your job, your mission, is lesanen, is to filter out the bad from the good, the impurities, so that you should be able to retain only that which is good and positive. So in order to achieve that, a lot of hard work is involved. And that in itself is also a reminder that in order to be a better person, in order for one to perfect himself, it requires work. It doesn't happen by itself, even though some people have it easier than others because they are more gentle. Their nature is much more gentle. Still, we all have work to do, but it is achievable. No one can say it's impossible for me to become a better person, to refine my character. Yes, in the same way that bread is being refined, the impurities are being removed. There's a process involved. Yes, hard work is required. The same thing when it comes to character, when it comes to conduct, how we conduct ourselves in our life, we can definitely do a lot better if we remember this, that it is up to us to filter out the impurities. But what we also see from this if impurities abound everywhere, we also see that it is possible for those impurities in some ways to become better themselves. In other words, don't think that just because something is impure, something is bad, it is no good and it needs to stay that way. No, even that which is bad, that which is no good, that itself can be transformed, that itself can become better. And we're going to see how. It's not just a matter of separating here the good from the bad and having the bad remain bad and the good good. No, it's even that which is bad, that which is not so good, can be refined to some extent. And we're going to see how. In order to achieve any kind of sinun, any kind of filtering process, you need to have someone who's interested in doing that. You need to have proper direction. Who's going to do that? Who's going to actually devote himself to do this? Life is short. It's going to come about, that's part of the divine plan, through certain neshamot, certain souls, that will be given the direction they need. So we have neshamot that are purer. To begin with, they're purer, so they have this divine spark, or they gravitate towards that which is holy naturally, but they also need direction. The direction is the Torah. So we will be giving this job to certain people whose mission will be to do this properly. Now, it doesn't mean that just they need to do it. Everyone, of course, needs to do that. When we talk about filtering, we're talking about the entire world. The entire world needs to come to this understanding that this is what needs to be done in order to perfect this world. But there will be a nation, a people, certain souls that will have the mission defined for them. So what we see is the beginning of this process, beginning really much more in earnest after the Mabul, after the flood. Because before the flood, I mean, you have all kinds of things happening, but the flood finished with everything. Who was left? Noah. So you really have to begin to analyze this process after the flood. So after the flood, you have only one family left, right? You have Noah and his kids. But even from the three children, what we see is that each one goes in his way. You have pretty much the formation of three continents. Shem is Asia, including the Middle East. Ham is Africa. Yefet is Europe. Back then, at least, this is the three directions where those kids are headed and their families, their descendants. So from them, you have Shem that emerges as the one that's going to be the main one. But it's not Shem himself who does all that work. It will be from his descendants. So if you analyze the whole history from after the Mabul, you will see as follows. You see Abraham coming to the scene. Okay, Abraham is definitely a refined soul. From the very start, as a child already, this is what he's searching for, meaning in life. He's searching for God. But is Abraham ready, he and all his children, to tackle this job on their own? No. Abraham is going to have various children. He's going to have Ishmael. He's then going to have Yitzchak. And after his wife, Sarah, passes away, he has an additional 6 children with Keturah. And according to our tradition, they went east towards India, in that region. So, which of them is ready to take upon himself this job? None of them. They're not ready yet. From all those kids that I just mentioned, there's one that comes out more refined. So Abraham is refined. The refinement process continues one notch higher. And from all those children of Abraham, Yitzchak is chosen. Yitzchak has that soul that is the most refined. But is Yitzchak ready? No. How do we know Yitzchak is not ready? Because Yitzchak has Esav. From Yitzchak and Rivka, from this couple, beautiful, righteous couple, you still have some impurities there. You have Esav being born out of these two righteous individuals. So that means that the mixture of bad and good is still there. There are still impurities. We still need to refine them even further. We need to take Yaakov, that is the most refined so far, and from him, from his 12 children, begin the nation, the Jewish nation, that will eventually receive the Torah. So you have to wait. Look at all these generations, all the refinement being done in order to achieve something that is completely refined. Nobody's perfect, but at least more refined in order to be able to do this job. You have to have the desire, the interest to do that which is holy, that which is spiritual. And not everybody is interested because it all depends on the makeup of the soul to begin with. We still all have free will because there is a mixture. Everyone is capable of it. But some will be more inclined than others, that's all. So you finally have Yaakov and Esav emerging over here, and the fact that Yaakov takes a great concentration of that which is purified, that which is filtered, that which is good, what happens to the impurities? It has to go somewhere too. Guess who gets that? Amalek. So when people want to understand what Amalek is all about, which I have a whole separate lecture, they have to remember he's the epitome of evil. He took all the impurities. You've seen orange juice concentrate or any concentrate. It's concentrated. There's lots of it. There's lots of evil or lots of impurities in this seed called Amalek. Where does Amalek come from? Esav. But Esav is not Amalek yet. Amalek is the grandson of Esav. But it's coming from that lineage. There's a lot of impurities in Esav and a lot more in Amalek. But Amalek is just one branch. So what do we have so far? Two very, very different type of children. One containing more of a refined soul, and the other one very unrefined. When we talk about twins, these two are twins. What are we saying? That the two of them are coming out at the same time, pretty much. And the two of them are powerful. They're almost identical. Almost, I mean, they don't look alike, but in other words, they're from the same parents, coming out at the same time. And according to the Midrash, from the mother's womb, they were already fighting. It says, she was having a hard pregnancy. In other words, there was a lot of movement going on. So the Midrash explains that the twins were already struggling inside the mother's womb, even though they don't really struggle the way we know what struggling is. It means that those powers are waiting to come out, and already from the very beginning, they already have different agendas, different directions. And the fact that it is described as struggling, meaning that they will be at each other's throat all the time. They will be fighting each other. So the fact that this happens from the mother's womb, the fact that they are twins, reminds us that we have here a constant battle between two powers, two great powers that are given equal reign. We need to have free will. We need to have the two of them being more or less on an equal footing. Even so, when one of them is on top, the other one will be down. You can't really have the two of them all the way at the top. You always will have one power that is more in control of what's going on. So, from the very beginning, at the root, we have something that is more refined and something which is not only unrefined, but is against that which is refined, which is very, very interesting, very, very interesting. He's not just different, he's against, he's opposed. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Amalek is not just different. He not only likes other things, he's opposed to the other side too. And therefore he will fight it. He won't want it to be around because this is a threat to him. So what do we have here? We have here two powers that are also espousing different worldviews. One is more centered on materialism, enjoy life. It's all about himself. And one is more spiritual. One will do something that brings him pleasure, that benefits him directly, and one will be more interested in Avodat Hashem, in the service of God. You see it right away. They don't have to grow up. You see it when they were young, they were children. You see them each going in different directions. One going to the field, becoming a hunter, Esav. One is more Ishtaim Yoshev Ohalim. He's very sincere. He's very plain. He sits in the tents of learning. He's more interested in learning. A whole different kind of attitude, different type of young man who's not interested in that which is materialistic. So one is more physical, one is more spiritual. So who receives the job for taking on that which is more spiritual? The Jewish people. Those the children of Yaakov. They are given the job to disseminate the emet, to disseminate the truth, to emphasize that which is spiritual. And for that, they receive the Torah. The Torah needs to give them the direction, how to do it. How do you accomplish that? How do you teach people what really matters in life? What is the truth? What is false? What is a waste of time? Through the Torah. The Torah is therefore the vehicle, or the means through which the Jewish people who have that soul are given the job of teaching this to everyone else, to being a light unto the nations. So even though they are supposed to be doing that, don't think they're the only ones. You do have other peoples, other individuals who are not Jewish, who also began some sort of religion, especially in Asia, to emphasize spirituality more than physicality. Till today, you have those. And I have a lecture about it in Religions of the World, of how a lot of them have many, many things in common with Judaism, or at least certain things. Where did they get that from? What did we say earlier? There is good and bad mixed up. There are good sparks everywhere. And those good sparks gravitate towards that which is holy and divine. And they feel that this is something important to them. Just that they're mixed up with all kinds of impurities. So what you have here is all kinds of religions, philosophies emerging that teach about the importance of doing the right thing and de-emphasizing the physical world. The problem is that they only did a partial job, not a complete job. It's not enough for people to get clear direction in life with just a little bit of an idea that makes some sense. But at least there's something out there. The bottom line, however, is that there's only two. There's not 3, 4, or 5, even though there appear to be many, many cults, many religions, and so forth. In reality, you have one that represents the emet, one that represents sheker. One is the truth, one is falsehood. But even in falsehood, we said before, there can be some elements of truth, because we have here mixtures after all. But because you have emet and sheker that are opposing each other, what happens as a result? Wars. We've been having lots and lots of wars. If there's no emet, that's what happens. The sheker tries to fight. Emet, as we will soon see, doesn't have to fight. It needs to defend itself. Emet is emet. Do you want to know the truth? Just go ahead, investigate, and you will discover it. Sheker, in order to survive, has to fight. So you have all these wars that are founded on sheker. Everything is fake, everything is false. Especially so since sheker doesn't tolerate emet. So if you come up with something that is emet, something which is truth, that the conscience doesn't allow you to do that. What's conscience? People don't like that. They want to make up their own rules. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't make up your own rules. There's only one emet. You can't say, well, this one is emet, this one is... You can't have each one with his emet, with his truth. There's only one truth. So because sheker does not tolerate emet, it will always go after the emet. And that's what we've seen throughout our history, that the Jewish people suffered a lot as a result of them teaching emet, and everybody else feeling very uncomfortable about it, not liking it, that the fact that they claim that they have the emet. No, you don't have the emet, we have the emet. Now, if you ask somebody who knows a little bit about emet, tell me, why don't you go all the way with it? Why don't you embrace it completely? Why just halfway? He'll give you all kinds of excuses. If you want to know the real explanation of why people don't embrace emet, even though they identify what emet is, so one rabbi put it very, very clearly. He said, truth is heavy. That is why those who carry it, preach it, are so very few. What does it mean, truth is heavy? A lot of people want to enjoy the pleasures of life. They have a lot of tavot, they have a lot of desires. And the truth interferes or gets in the way with all these tavot, with all these pleasures. So you can't have them both. So that is why you will find that you have always two kinds of people. Those who seek only pleasure, and those who are willing to give up some of those pleasures, realizing what the emet is and what the emet requires. It's interesting that Hitler, wrote in Mein Kampf, in his book, that in reality, if you look around the world, there's only two camps. Our camp and the Jews. He says the rest is just insignificant. Doesn't count, doesn't matter. There's only two camps. Us and them. It's incredible that he should say that, but he's Amalek. Amalek understands that there's another power out there that is disturbing him, not letting him do his job. He understands that, and that is why he fought it. People think it's just anti-Semitism. No, they don't understand. It's not just about anti-Semitism. Why is there anti-Semitism? Because this emet is an enemy. He's an enemy. They teach things that are completely contrary to what these people want to teach. And as a result of that, they hate him. They don't want to see them. And they will try to stop them, whatever they can do to stop them. That is why if you look at history, you will find that many, many nations, many groups, many religions fought the Jews, fought Judaism, whether it was because of their philosophy, their way of life, or their religion. Mind your own business. What does it bother you? Let them live the way they want to live. Take a look, for example, at the story of Hanukkah. What's the story of Hanukkah? It's about Greek philosophy. It's about the Greeks trying to threaten the Jews with their way of life, their philosophy. It wasn't so much of a physical danger. It was decrees to stamp out the worship of God, because they believed that man is what matters. Build up his muscles. Who started the Olympics, if not them? Man is at the center of this world, not God. We have to therefore build him up. And they learned all kinds of philosophies, and they attempted to spread, of course, their teachings everywhere as well. And since the Jew was very, very different, and what he taught was completely contrary to what they were teaching, they had to limit him. They had to restrain him. That is what is behind the decrees of Hanukkah, trying to restrain the Jew from publicly teaching the emet, the truth. And subconsciously they knew that the Jew has something. Of course they knew it. It bothered them. Now obviously Amalek is bothered more than the Greeks. And that is why Amalek was capable of murder and doing terrible things against the Jews. The Greeks tried to limit it in their own way. And of course that is why when the Jews fought, God of course performed miracles. If you fight for what you believe in, you will receive that help from God. If you don't fight, then that is the danger of assimilation, that they become swallowed up by the other cultures where they live. It was always a problem whenever the Jew was surrounded with alien cultures, that there was this possibility that if he doesn't show that he's firm in his faith, he may just, God forbid, assimilate. Therefore, the rabbis tell us, don't get confused when you see somebody hate you or hate your way of life and you call it anti-Semitism. No. That's confusing the whole thing. There's a halakha, Esav sonet Yaakov. Remember, it's a halakha, it's a rule. Esav hates Jacob. That's all. Esav sonet Yaakov? Yeah. From when? From the very beginning. It's not because they're capitalists, it's not because they're communists, it's not because they're Democrats or Republicans. It has nothing to do with that. It's Esav sonet Yaakov from the very beginning, at the root level, as we said before. It's a halakha. Halakha meaning you can't change it. That's the way it is. At the very beginning, the two oppose each other. So therefore, Esav is going to hate Yaakov. Don't come up with excuses. Anti-Semitism. Yeah, of course we know that. There is anti-Semitism, but why? The main reason is because they can't take it. They can't take it that the Jew is so different. And he believes in it, and he doesn't do anything to change and integrate himself into our society. It bothers them. Leave him alone. Let everyone live the way they do. as long as he doesn't break the law of the land, as long as he doesn't go and do something terrible, let them live the way they want to live. No, they won't let them. And when they couldn't succeed in changing the Jew, they drove him out. They expelled him from many, many countries with all kinds of excuses that they harmed the economy. And the opposite was the truth. They didn't harm the economy. Wherever the Jew was, the economy prospered. But this is all a reminder to us that you have these powers that are against each other from the very beginning of time. And that is why, from the mother's womb, we are seeing Esav and Yaakov fighting each other. This struggle between Esav and Yaakov in the womb is just to remind us, don't think that this happened 1,000 years later, or happened as a result of something that we did. Yes, there are people who are jealous. That's something else. But such hatred, that's already from the very, very beginning. So how do we defeat the sheker? How do you defeat falsehood? Only with the Torah. If you have the Torah, you're able to defend yourself. You're able to strengthen your bond with God and protect yourself, protect your values. Without the Torah, there's always the danger of assimilation. Then why didn't we win? The reason why the Jewish people did not win and did not accomplish their mission completely is because the emet that we had was mehula b'sheker, I call it. It means that the truth that we had was diluted with some falsehood. Not everyone was completely truthful. You have people who are fake, people who are not sincere, people that have no integrity, dishonest. People think just because he's Jewish or just because he learned Torah, just because he's a rabbi, he must be an angel. No, we all have an evil inclination and we all have our weaknesses. So if you bribe somebody with $100,000, you may be able to get him to do all kinds of terrible things. That's a lot of money, especially for those who love money. Yeah. You know that some people are willing to kill someone for just $1,000, maybe even less, depending on the country. Life is cheap for them. The money is their God. So when you have truth that is diluted, it's not pure, obviously, then it behaves like the sheker, it behaves just like the falsehood. You can't win, you don't have more power. You don't have more power than the sheker if the emet has a little bit of sheker in itself. One of the disadvantages, of course, that human beings have is that we live in a world that everything is full of imagination. In other words, the truth is concealed. It's not so obvious. You have to search for it. And instead you have a lot of things that are sheker. It's a make-believe. There's a lot of things that people will try to sell you that are really, really nothing. They're superficial. They're just with a tzipui, gold-plated, but not really gold. It's just a tzipui, just a cover. Just a small, thin layer that shines. And that's what attracts people. People go for it. And since the philosophy has always been enjoy yourself, it's all about pleasure, then obviously you have a tremendous disadvantage that the sheker, in some ways, has the upper hand. Because people see the physical world. They don't see the spiritual world. Spirituality is a little bit in a different dimension. You have to dig a little bit for it. Like we said earlier, the job of refining the bread is laborious. The job of refining, removing impurities takes time. And whereas the pleasure, here, the Satan says, I pay cash. I don't give you a post-dated check for all your hard work. In the next world, where's the next world? And they come up with an excuse. You say there's a next world. Has anybody ever come back from there and told you that? What do you mean? Of course, people have come back and they have sent warm regards through NDE, near-death experiences, through dreams, through all kinds of ways that we have seen that the soul continues to exist in the afterlife. But in this world, in this short life, we don't see that, we don't have clarity about that, and the sheker is very powerful. It tries to promote everything that has to do with pleasure, and people fall for it. So what you have is a lot of emet perhaps, but it's diluted with all this sheker, which has so much influence over it, that it makes the emet, the truth, very, very shallow. And a little bit of emet. But he lives, that emet lives his life pretty much behaving like sheker, like falsehood. So with that kind of a weak emet, you can't win. So now we turn to Esav and Yaakov as they're growing up. What do we see? Esav, who represents sheker, is very good at deceiving his own father, sheker. He flatters him, he tells him all kinds of stories, which give the impression to this father, Yitzchak, oh, my son must be so righteous. Look, he's asking very, very good questions that show that he's interested in doing the right thing. But it was all a show, because it's sheker. Sheker wants to impress. But the big question is, okay, Esav was not for real. But Esav is known to be one of the best when it comes to honoring his parents. That one mitzvah he did have. How do you explain that? This is sheker, false. But we're talking about something for real. He did have that mitzvah in many ways better than anybody else. How do you make any sense of that? And the answer is very simple. What did we say earlier? There's a mixture of good and bad everywhere. Who's to say that Esav didn't have some good? On the contrary. As a result of the little bit of good that he had, good sparks, later on, years later on, tzaddikim came out from him. Righteous people who eventually converted to Judaism, they were from Esav. Great rabbis. There was some good in the bad. Where did that good come from? Well, his father is Yitzchak. Now let's take a look at Yaakov. Yaakov, of course, is very, very good. But how do you explain that you have two children, one good and one bad, if they both have the same father? Yaakov was good. Yitzchak was good. Wasn't Rivka good too? Yes. Both Yitzchak and Rivka were good, but the bad, the impurities in that couple came from Rivka's side. Look at her brother. Look at her father, Lavan, Betuel. There was a lot of impurity on that side, so the impurities went to Esav. Yaakov retained the good only. Even though they were brothers, they were twins. Same parents, yes, but there's some genes, the maternal genes in this case went more to Esav. And there's impurities on that side. Whereas Yaakov retained most of that which is pure coming from Yitzchak directly. Esav grows up. And as he grows up, he of course leads a life which is very immoral. He does all kinds of things that are not proper. But there is a certain incident that's recorded in the parasha about Esav selling the Bechorah, the birthright, to his brother Yaakov for lentils. Birthright. Who needs birthright? So those who don't delve into the parasha deeply will not fully understand and appreciate what exactly is going on here. Why is he selling his birthright? And after selling it, he makes fun of it. And what does he say about it? What's his excuse not to want to have the birthright to begin with, even though it was worth something to be the first one? He came out first. I'm going to die anyway. Who needs it? After all, what's involved? What's involved is Avodat Hashem, the service of God. I'm not interested. Plus, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm not living forever, so who needs this? What's going on over here? Esav, through his demeanor, through his explanations of why he doesn't want Bechorah, is giving away that he cares more about the pleasures of life. He cares more about the physical life. He doesn't want to have anything to do with spirituality. Okay. But is that it? He just gives up on it because he's not interested in spirituality? No, there's something else. If you look at what went on there, you will see that the Torah records that Vayivez Esav et Bechorah, he made fun of it. He looked down at it. He disrespected it. That's a very key detail here in describing why Esav did not even think twice. See, sometimes people think twice about something. Should I give it up or not? Remember, he has a mixture of some good. Why would he not think twice? Just because he was hungry? No. His big problem was Vayives. He made fun. He was disrespectful. Maimonides, the Rambam tells us in Hilchot Teshuvah, and it's explained, of course, elsewhere as well, that one of the characteristics that impede proper Teshuvah, that will really close the doors from those who are thinking ever to do Teshuvah, to repent, is anybody who mezalzel, who makes fun, is disrespectful of Rabotav, of his teachers, who doesn't easily accept rebuke. He makes fun of it, he looks down at it, he criticizes it. That characteristic will make it very difficult. Because if you make fun and you're disrespectful of something, how are you ever going to change your mind? By making fun of somebody or something, it will be very difficult to reconnect to it. The zilzul, the lack of respect, brings about a certain, not only disrespect, but a certain disconnect from that which you're disrespecting, that it makes it so difficult to ever come back, to ever think about embracing it. Anybody who's disrespectful of something which is holy will eventually become less and less serious about that which is holy and spiritual. He won't consider it at all. He won't think of it highly, for sure not. He won't therefore make any effort, especially if it involves a lot of effort, to go to a class or to listen to something being said about it. He's totally disconnected from it. And with this characteristic of disrespect and zilzul, looking down at that which is holy, this will lead to being disrespectful and looking down at human beings. And the moment a person looks down or disrespects other human beings, he's capable of murder. That's what the Nazi race was all about, the Aryan race, of segregating or discriminating based just on race, the purity of race. Why? What difference does it make? Isn't everybody created in the image of God? Well, what's God, right? The fact that they were able to disrespect and look down at other human beings who are special, that allowed them to consider even killing others just because they were different. So that is why this midah of being disrespectful of that which is holy, that which is spiritual, is very, very dangerous. Because it will not enable this individual to ever wake up from his slumber. Slumber meaning he will continue to be asleep thinking that his way is the correct way and that he's not wrong. He's never going to come to that conclusion. Now, let's go back to Esav. How could we have fixed him? How could we have changed his mind? He does have something good. So when there's something good there, it's possible. We don't give up on him. Esav's philosophy or way of thinking was, I'm going to die anyway. So that kind of thinking is what cooled him off or discouraged him from even thinking twice about it. That concept of going to die anyway can be redirected. When I say redirect, that means you can use that concept of death to your benefit. What is the problem with Esav? He has a very powerful evil inclination, right? The rabbis tell us, what do you do with an evil inclination that's so powerful? Taskir lo et yom hamitah. If nothing else helps, learning Torah, distraction, remind him of the day of death. Think about death. I'm going to be dying soon. I'm going to be put in the grave. My friends are going to be the worms. The body's going to decompose. When you think about such somber thoughts, it gets people to wake up a little bit and realize that life is about responsibility, that we're accountable. Yesh din veyesh dayan. It gets people to think a little bit. This thought of death can be redirected. If you redirect the concept of death properly, even with somebody like Esav, you would get him to perhaps change his mind. You would possibly get him to wake up. But again, he had a problem. The wrong way of thinking, but dying anyway. Dying anyway meaning not that there's an afterlife. That's it. You only live once. That's what some people say. If you only live once, you might as well enjoy it. That kind of a philosophy. Plus, he's ridiculing anything that's spiritual. So obviously there's a lot against him, a lot going against him. How is he ever going to want to be a responsible human being? That is why I wanted to add that in the same way you could have redirected Esav to think a little bit differently by taking the concept of death and using it in a way which would awaken him, Yaakov, in order to overcome Esav, had to also do something in an indirect way. Yaakov is Ish HaEmet. He is considered the pillar of truth. And he wants the blessing of his father. He wants the Bechorah. He wants the birthright because he wants to do the service of Hashem. Not only does he not have a problem with it, he actually wants it. But he realizes that it's not possible to get it so easily. You have to do it in an indirect way. In the same way that with Esav, we may have succeeded by going indirectly and approaching him with the concept of death in a different way. Yaakov needs to do something indirectly. You can't fight Sheker head on. So what does he do? He gives him the lentils. Then his mother tells him to dress up and go serve your dad and make him think that you're Esav. Why does this have to happen like this? This is trickery. But if you look at the word that Yitzhak used to tell Esav what Yaakov did, you look at the translation of it, the Aramaic translation, you will see that it says that he did this in a smart way. It wasn't complete trickery, even though it is a form of deceit. But this form of deceit is necessary because you're dealing with deceit. The only way to fight Sheker is with deceit as well. You're using the same ammunition. You're going in an indirect way, but you're doing it in a smart way. You're not doing it in a way that is wrong. You're doing it in a smart way. It's coming to him. He sold him the birthright. It wasn't completely a lie, but the way it was presented, it had to be that way. Sometimes in order for the emet to achieve what it wants to achieve, if it's facing Sheker, a very powerful Sheker, it has to go in an indirect way. To understand what does it mean to go in an indirect way a little bit better, we need to look at what the rabbis tell us about this world. The rabbis tell us that this world is like a wedding. A wedding, yeah, people are grabbing. People are going to grab, you see them at weddings, they grab food. They fill up their plates, and they never end up eating the whole thing. It's a waste, it goes to the garbage. This world is like a behilula. It's like a wedding, it's like a big party, where people grab, people want to enjoy, people want to eat. So the rabbis tell us, remember, this is a time to grab, but not food. Grab mitzvot. Make sure you grab, yes. You only have so much time. Grab, but grab good things that you will take with you. So here we have a Satan. We have an evil inclination. We have a Satan that's trying to rob us of our time. He's trying to, in a very deceitful way, convince us to do that which is not useful at all, not beneficial to our soul. So what do we need to do? We also need to grab from him hours. He wants to grab all our time. We need to grab a couple hours for Torah and mitzvot. There's a beautiful mashal, I think, by the Chafetz Chaim, who once said as follows. Somebody came to him complaining, Rabbi, in all my prayers, I barely have any kavanah. It's hard for me to focus. Why? Because whenever I'm praying, the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, comes and tries to distract my attention to business. I'm trying to pray and I can't focus. He's robbing me of that focus. He's robbing me. So the Chafetz Chaim tells him like this. There was once a vendor selling bagels, a bagel vendor. And one day, the Russian army, many soldiers came into town. They went over to his stand and they grabbed all his bagels. He couldn't do anything about it. He came home that night and he tells his wife what happened. What can you do? You can't fight the army. And later, after he told her his story, he asked her for dinner. Now she started yelling at him. Now you ask me to eat something? When you saw that the soldiers were grabbing all your bagels, you should have grabbed 2 bagels for yourself. At least you would have had something to eat now. Now you're complaining you have nothing to eat. You see that they are taking from you. At least take 2 for yourself and go home. The Chafetz Chaim says, as you see that the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, is grabbing your thoughts, is grabbing your time, is taking you in the very opposite direction to where you want to go, you at least grab 1 tefillah. You can't concentrate and focus on all the prayer, then choose 1 or 2. At least you'll have that 1 or 2. To have 0, nothing, don't let him. You can definitely grab 1 or 2. So that is the point over here. The sheker wants to grab us. Let us also grab whatever we can. In this case, grab hours. Grab some hours for yourself of Torah and mitzvot. At least you'll have something. There's one thing that is also very important for us to do in order if we want to stay ahead of the sheker. What did we say about Esav? Esav made fun of that which is holy, made fun of the birthright. And as a result of that, it made it difficult for him to change his mind. This making fun is actually a good thing sometimes. Make fun of materialism. Look down at all that is very materialistic, all that which is very materialistic, because that is what's ruining a lot of people. If you look down at it, in other words, you minimize it. You don't completely eliminate it. We're not saying that. You minimize it. You don't give it so much attention. You don't respect it. That will give you the upper hand. This is the kind of strength that we need. This is the chokhmah that Yaakov used. In an indirect way, we got to defeat that which is false. You can't fight it head on. So what do? Indirect way. Chokhmah, in an intelligent, smart way. Minimize your dependency on that which is materialistic. Grab whatever you can, because they're going to grab. So you grab too. A couple hours here and there to go to a Shiur Torah. Together between all these ideas, this strategy, you may be able to win. Sheker has to fight. Falsehood, that which is false, as I said earlier, they need to fight in order to get anywhere. Because it's sheker. Rabbi tells us sheker, en lo raglaim, it has no feet to stand on. It can't really market itself properly. It has to fight. It has to force it upon you. Emet doesn't have to fight at all. The truth, if you examine it, if you really examine it, you will see it for yourself. The Maharal Miprach says something very beautiful. How could you see the difference between Emet and Sheker? He says, on the words of Isaac, Yitzchak, telling Esav, when Isaac told Jacob, when Jacob approached Yitzchak for the first time, that's interesting. What's going on here? He was blind, remember. Hakol kol Yaakov, hayadam yedei Esav. I hear the voice of Jacob here, so soft-spoken, using the name of God. Wow. But I see that the hands are hairy. I see the hide on him, because that's what he was wearing. That's what his mother gave him. This is the hands of Esav. So the voice is of Yaakov and the hands of Esav. What a contradiction, but he still blessed him. So the Maharal Miprach says something very, very beautiful here. He says, you know what kol is? What is the voice? The voice is that which is internal, that which is the essence of something, that which is the truth of something. The yadayim is exterior. It's not necessarily true. The yadayim, the hands of Esav, have to fight. The physical hands of Esav, they need to fight in order to defend their sheker. They need to yell. They need to demonstrate. They need to put down the emet, because otherwise they won't succeed. They can't convince people so easily. The call, the voice, the internal, the essence of Yaakov is emet. All you got to do is dig, examine it, look at it. It doesn't have to fight. Emet doesn't have to fight. If you really check it out, you will discover the emet. Just to finish up, we're living in a generation today where there's a lot of sheker, more so than ever before. If you ask why now more than ever, our tradition is that right before Mashiach comes, the sheker will know, the falsehood will know that it's about to disappear. The truth is about to be revealed. It will therefore begin a fight on all fronts. Powerful fight, because it's about to disappear. So therefore you see an increase in chutzpah. Chutzpah meaning impudence, disrespect. Children are disrespectful of their parents. Forget about that which is holy. Not only is that which is holy being disrespected, even one's own parents. The kids are disrespectful of their parents. Now, what about adults themselves? The adults themselves don't want to have children. They don't want a responsibility, they want to have a dog. That's why you see a lot of people walking dogs these days, more than ever. Children, they don't want the responsibility. So the children that are already in this world don't respect the previous generation. The adults that don't have children yet are not thinking of having the children. They don't want the responsibility. What about to love a child? No. that love is also dissipating. And you know where you can see this? In two very important areas. Marriages are falling apart. That means people have less tolerance for each other, are not willing to commit so much. Because love requires commitment. It means that you want to give to another individual. That requires, of course, a lot of willpower to give. I want to give myself in this world of pleasures. So you have people not wanting to have the kids, marriages falling apart. And what's really, really sad, you don't see so many real friendships. Two people who are really good friends, solid friends, people don't believe in it. And even though they claim, he's my friend, I have hundreds of friends, they're not friends. Maybe acquaintances, but not real friends. I have a whole lecture about that, about friendships, how valuable it is that the rabbis tell us, acquire for yourself a real friend. Not everyone is going to do it because it takes work, it takes investment, it takes a lot of effort to prove yourself that you are sincere. And if you don't have too many sincere people out there, people are fake, then obviously the friendship won't last, even if it started off as a good friendship. Right before Mashiach comes, there will be a birur. We spoke about the filtering process that began after the Mabul, especially after the flood. The filtering process has been going on continuously, but right before Mashiach comes, there will be an additional powerful filtering process where Hashem will want to filter out the good from the bad. He will want to separate people into two, which means that there will not be parve. Parve means something which is not this or that, something in between. No, you will either belong to the right or to the left. And that is why you're seeing this today much more prominently than ever before. People on the right, people on the left. And they can't, of course, tolerate each other. They're very, very different. You're seeing it more and more and more accentuated. The reason why this is happening is a result of what the rabbis tell us elsewhere, ha'emet yeh ne'ederet. Truth will be lacking, big time. And when truth is lacking, what happens next? The rabbis tell us, naset adarim adarim. Then you get more and more groups, a lot of groups, a multitude of parties. How come? Just one or two. Why can't you just have one or two? No, you have to have all these parties. Ha'emet ne'ederet, truth will be lacking. Nobody will be able to have the clarity of knowing really what is the truth. Everybody will claim, I have the truth. My way is the correct way. Who's to say that your way is more correct than his way? Who ever said that? And respect him for what he believes, as much as he should respect you too. No, he's wrong. Who told you he's wrong? Why think that you are right? Because you're liberal, therefore liberalism is better. Who told you that? Is liberalism something from God? What makes you think you're better than him, that you're more right than him? But that is, of course, what Sheker is all about. Sheker cannot stand the fact that, yes, it's true, people are entitled to their own views. Even though they may not be 100% right, but at least they're entitled to it. And perhaps he is right. Give him a chance. Look into what he's saying. No. This is all Sheker. Sheker needs to fight, needs to do battle with the Emet because it feels threatened. So right before Mashiach comes, Hashem will filter out once again. He will do all kinds of things that will bring about some incredible, powerful separation where you will see two camps. And what will those two camps be called? The camp of Oved Elokim versus the camp of Lo Oved Elokim. There will only be two camps, those that want to serve God and those that don't wish to serve God. You will have only these two. That's what will remain. It may be the will of Hashem that we should all, of course, be in the camp of service of God. Amen.